Online by Mr. Amir Bilal Sufi, who's a legal expert. Thank you very much, Amir Sab, for being part of the discussion. Welcome to the debate. First of all, I would like your perspective and helping us understand what stance has Pakistan put forward to. We know that the statement that has been put forward by our representative in the ICJ, and of course Pakistan has called out the Israeli settler policy, also of course reiterated its stance on the two-state solution, then of course the end of ceasefire. But specifically when we talk about genocide and acts of genocide that Israel has committed, how will this role contribute towards that aspect that, of course, is being taken a look at in the court's proceedings?
Well, thank you very much. Basically, Pakistan has also participated alongside several other countries because when you have a proceedings of this nature, there are two distinct proceedings that are being undertaken in the International Court of Justice. One relates to genocide, which has been invoked by South Africa, and the other one is relating to the legality of the occupation and its consequential actions. Pakistan has participated in the proceedings and with the intent and with the clarity which historically the state of Pakistan has held that position, that Israelis occupation is against international law of West Bank and Gaza, and therefore they are not entitled to the nature of activities which they are doing or which they consider themselves entitled in terms of committing war crimes and in terms of extraordinary suppression of the Palestinians. So Pakistan has taken this position all along, and Pakistan maintains this position, and it has stood by Palestinians throughout in all international forums. It has supported the cause of Palestine state, and it has supported the cause of self-determination of the people of Palestine because of its similarity with the Kashmir issue under international law. So Pakistan has reiterated that same position through its representative and its interim law minister now in these proceedings, in which Pakistan addressed the court for half an hour and reiterated the same positions that under international law, the right of occupation does not, even if that is a regime of occupation, does not entitle Israel to commit war crimes of the nature and the magnitude that it has committed, whether under the pretext of self-defense or reprisal or whatsoever may be the justification attempted, that should not be accepted by international judicial forums. So that's been the position of Pakistan consistently, and this is what it has reiterated.
Right. Amir Sab, help me understand. You started off by pointing out two aspects, the aspect of occupation and then the aspect of genocide. Can you please clarify for me that Pakistan is putting up the stance within the court with regards to occupation and not genocide, or both?
No, both. Let me be clear. Pakistan's official position is that occupation is unlawful, and even whether you are able to occupy, it does not give you a license to commit a genocide.
Right.
And any kind of moves that you are doing against civilians, unarmed population of Palestinians, children, old people, non-combatants, they are prohibited under international law. In general international law relating to human rights and under specific international law relating to law of armed conflict that regulates the conduct of hostilities. So on both accounts, there is a serious and a grave violation that has been committed by the Israeli forces, and it has now been globally recognized as such. And that is the reason why when South Africa took this matter under Genocide Convention to International Court of Justice, they granted an interim order whereby they asked Israel to abstain from committing any acts of genocide. So that was a clear recognition that at a global level,
but that interim order, if I can also get your legal view on that, talked about acts of genocide and any sort of genocidal acts that Israel should refrain from, but did not outrightly also claim that Israel is committing genocide. Is that because that is still under consideration?
No, I think the International Court of Justice relied on documentation that has been presented in United Nations, including the report of the Secretary General, that identified that the offenses and the actions that constitute grave breaches are genocidal in nature. They also presented before the court the statements from the government of Israel, from its officials, which made obvious the intent to commit a genocidal framework. So I think there is no doubt that there was a prima facie case made out in the judgment of the court when it passed the interim order that genocide should be prevented.
You're right. Sufi Saab, I'm glad that you're talking about all this. I just wanted to actually ask you something regarding repercussions of actually having a voice and using it. Israel is a fairly influential state, and we have seen that the countries that actually stand up to it repeatedly become a target, and repeatedly they are actually, international media keeps on attacking them, and then they are badmouthed by various influentials as well. Pakistan, given that we are in a precarious situation already, and then seeing that Pakistan is not directly connected to Palestinian, neighborhood, what do you think would have actually led Pakistan to volunteer in this case? And how does it ensure that Pakistan does not face similar kind of consequences as I pointed out earlier?
Well, I think what Pakistan needs to do is to also align itself with the position taken by the OIC. The OIC is a group of excuse me, is a group of states which have a unanimous and a historically consistent voice on this. No matter if you consider that voice to be less effective, that thing apart. But the position remains that OIC member states have always taken this position very consistently, that this is a serious violation of international law. Well, now that where we are, there is obviously a possibility of repercussions to that, but that repercussions apart, Pakistan should raise the voice as the lead country. We are not saying that Pakistan should give call for people to join armed action or to render assistance to those who are suppressed. But we are saying Pakistan should raise the voice, and Pakistan is raising that voice. That voice then has to be eventually determined and supported by the political forces and the incoming new government which is coming in. They will have now the responsibility to steer a very clear strategy on this. Whether they want to be assertive, to what extent they wish to be assertive, and do they wish to align themselves with some other countries as well, or do they wish to take a legal course which is under international law, justifiable course? So that is something that the new government will also have to figure out. And I believe it is better that not only the government, sitting government, but rather the political forces and the political parties who are in opposition or who are with the government in the coalition, they should in the parliament debate this issue, and so that the people of Pakistan are well aware of the contours, of the effects, repercussions, and the benefits, if any, of where to take this issue and how to carry this forward, and make a very stated position, like the Saudi government has given a very straightforward position on that. Do we want to go down that route, or do we wish to do that? Should be politically consensus-based position, which should come out in next few weeks, if not few months.
Absolutely, and but that is very prudent course of action. Now, let us also unpack the possibility or the scope of legal, international laws impact on Israel. So far, what we have seen is no sanctions on Israel, all sanctions on either Palestinians or the UN body that actually caters to the relief efforts in Palestinian areas, particularly Gaza. What exactly is the scope of this whole proceedings? Is there a possibility that if Israel is finally found by this court in breach of international law, particularly genocide law, do you think that there is a possibility that other countries that have been so far supporting it might actually think about sanctioning Israel, sir?
And also add to that, we of course know that the ruling will not be binding, and of course there is an understanding that it's going to add pressure and of course make things difficult for Israel and countries supporting it as well. But how much of that will actually take place, especially given the fact that the interim order also came out as a big deal, and it was celebrated, of course, by South Africa and other countries that were taking this stance. But at the end of the day, nothing really happened on ground. There was no ceasefire, and we lost more lives.
Well, yes, that is an issue because obviously Israel is supported by the U.S. government and it receives support by some very important European countries. So, 2 or 3 countries amongst the permanent 5 in the UN Security Council extend support to Israeli policies. Israel has its own version of things. It considers that the hospital it bombs are eventually used as military military installations and the underground bunkers and so on and so forth. But all those things apart, the means and methods that the Israeli forces are using, the killing of the children, the killing of the elderly, killing of the women, killing of the non-combatants, is not justifiable on any pretext whatsoever. So that is the context in which the ICJ has given its view. Obviously, as you noted, this view could be, even if it is binding in nature, the question is, can it be forced on Israel? The forcing mechanism is through UN Security Council again. And again, unfortunately, we will be seeing a possibility of a political veto by 1 or 2 of the permanent 5 countries. Now, in those circumstances, I believe that important responsibilities on the neighboring countries, because the neighboring countries and all other countries have a general responsibility. Another mechanism that could be that one can look at is the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is yet another body which has come up in the last few years to look into matters of this nature, because such matters also obstruct international trade and tranquility.
Right, but Emir Saab, last question. If the enforcement is something that is under question, and what we're looking at is the possibility of veto, whatever the ruling is, then I want to understand what really is the contribution that this ruling is going to give to the people of Palestine. What support will they achieve out of this? What avenues will this ruling open for other countries to take action? I just want to understand then, if even if the ruling comes out against Israel, what is the cause for celebration then?
Well, obviously, the cause for celebration is that their viewpoint that Israel is committing genocide, something which Israel was denying, which is something that even U.S. government was partially denying. That position has been reaffirmed. That has been recognized as a position of fact on the ground. So that's a pretty serious recognition of an admitted position, something that was controversial initially, at least from the Western perspective. Now, what needs to be done is basically a political choice. If the countries closer to that, or any other country considers appropriate, it is a case of intervention to intervene to save the lives. You have humanitarian intervention argument. We have what we call responsibility to protect doctrine. All these doctrines are out there, but now you require a political, military, and a strategic intent to proceed further. Now, that is something which is beyond law. Law has got nothing to do with it. If realities dictate different realities, then obviously there will be limitation of those actions. But if you ask from a purely international point of view, whatever has happened in Israel, in Palestinian areas, in the occupied areas, create a reasonable justification for intervention.
Right. Thank you very much, Emir Bilal Sufi, for joining us and sharing your insights with us. And thank you for being part of the debate as always. And we really hope and look forward to the proceedings of the ICJ. And Pakistan, of course, is going to be contributing whatever it can to the situation and to end the suffering of the people of Palestine. And we hope that the ICJ also looks into the matter with this in mind, and that we're able to take action to help those that are suffering. That's all that we have from the debate. We'll now see you Monday.